Welcome to Brand Champions Mixtape. This is now week 3. This is a compilation of our favourite marketing subjects in a short break-sized podcast. We are going to be talking to you, as always, about 3 things today: Christmas advertising, reactive advertising, and this week's Friday ads.
Podcast on tour this week because neither of us are at home. We are in Reading today, so we've got a whole team event. Spending the day together. There's 9 of us in the Blade, so we're well cool. But yeah, it's been nice to spend some time with everyone. So, and where are you, Fee?
I am in Digital Jersey in the main hub office in Jersey, which is also a very nice office.
Let's kick off.
So first subject was obviously following on from last week when I told you I went to System 1, where we were talking about Christmas ads. So they'd been reviewing some of the best Christmas ads that had happened. One of the ones they had pulled out was the Amazon. I'm not sure if you remember it, but it was 3 old ladies and they were sledging.
Yeah.
And they had the, she'd ordered the kind of bum cushions to go in the sledge.
That was it. They're the plastic sledge. Yeah.
It was the one that came out on top for the System 1 reviews, and I talked last week about how they measure that. So yeah, that led us nicely on to thinking about, okay, psychology of Christmas ads. Let's talk about the brands that consistently use Christmas in their advertising and, you know, what resonates with us.
Well, I mean, in my house, it's not Christmas until you see the Coca-Cola truck Christmas ad. So it's like as soon as that ad is on telly, that is it. We can celebrate, and we are early doors Christmas celebrators.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Coca-Cola infamous truck ad that they just keep pulling out every year over and over is legendary, I think, for many people.
One of the biggest stat was 46% of people preferred ads, Christmas ads that reminded them of better times. It's not exactly that. I guess there's another category called nostalgia, but I don't know, that Coca-Cola ad has got that such upbeat feel to it, hasn't it? That and the music, we talked about the power of music last week.
I think you're right. It's quite an old advert now, isn't it? So for many of us, it's been there through a lot of our Christmases, and like for our children, that's probably an ad that they would have seen their whole lives, right, at Christmas. I saw a great stat that said 70% of young adults wait for Christmas ads for them to get into the festive mood.
And there was another stat that said nearly 50% of adults say that Christmas ads are responsible, have sparked their Christmas gift ideas. Again, that's huge, isn't it? If you think of our awareness conversion type models, I mean, that's such an amazing claim to say 50% of ideas have come from advertising. If only it was that straightforward for every category, we would be laughing at doing our jobs, wouldn't we? But I think the real thing that why we're so intrigued by it is there's not many other holidays that you could so effectively link back to advertising. I mean, we work in the travel industry, so we talk about that peak season at the start of the year, and really companies needing to make those sales in the first 2 months of the year, otherwise they probably never will. But yeah, there's nothing that kind of does it quite like Christmas, do you think?
No, and I think you have instances, don't you? So you have the Super Bowl. So Super Bowl night obviously is like epic for TV ads. There were some great examples this year. The David Beckham, Victoria Beckham one, and I think actually that goes on to some of the reactive ads that we'll talk about in a bit as well. So I think you have those moments in time throughout the year for sure, like Black Friday, all of that, but not a holiday as such. I don't think. Like you don't get massive Easter ads. The only things I ever remember at Easter are like DFS adverts. I don't know why. They always remind me of Easter. Probably when I watch the most telly. But I don't think brands, apart from those events or instances, spend as much money probably on a holiday period like they do at Christmas. I think it was something like £9.5 billion was spent by brands last year at Christmas.
Wow,
which
that's
is massive,
incredible,
right?
Isn't it?
But
yeah, totally.
Have we mentioned it briefly last week, but have we got to a point where we're like saturated with the way Christmas ads have been for the last sort of 3 or 4 years, with the retro song that's been remade with, like a ballet version or something, or acoustic version? Are we ready to see something different this year and see something happier? Or, what's
Well, I
nostalgic this
was
year?
I was surprised because again, these stats are slightly different to what we saw from System One when I went to that session. But in some of the stats we were looking at, funny was only preferred by 21% of the audience. I love a funny ad. The funny ads, I love humor anyway, but the funny
Yeah,
ads are the one that sticks out in my mind. And so I think I'm really surprised that only 20% prefer funny ads. And we were saying last week, weren't we? We've had the big, deep and meaningful and emotional. Um, and I'm really hoping for some really funny ads this year. Amazon was a great example of
yeah,
that, and obviously it came out on the top spot. But also, music for me. Let's get some proper old school tunes that I'm
yeah.
intrigued to see what this year is going to be all about.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's like people wait for the big ones, don't they? They wait for the John Lewis ad. Everyone I remember
Yeah,
when that came out last year, everyone's like, "Oh, the John Lewis ad is out," and they're going earlier and earlier as well. Like last year they were
yeah,
early. So it will be interesting this year what route they take. Are brands spending as much? It's been a tough year for a lot of brands. A lot of spend has been cut. We've seen that
yeah,
across the board. So will it be
yeah.
a smaller approach this year? Any recycling of ads, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, well, I guess we've only got
Mm.
June, July, August, September, October, November, 7 months to wait and see. Probably.
Something that will have a massive impact. Obviously, the general election announced yesterday. A general election always sees a shake-up of marketing spend, and the parties being one of the biggest contributors to marketing spend. We haven't seen that for a while. So I'm intrigued to see, well, two things I'm intrigued to see. Intrigued to see how much each of them are spending
Yeah,
on their own marketing campaigns and what the hooks for those are going to be over the next few months, weeks,
yeah,
but also seeing what the reactive advertising, which is hence why we talked about this, because I think we've got loads of examples of brands doing this really, really well. We've got some doing it not so well and some never entering into this space at all. When we talked about the political, it made me think back to when Cavonia did a marketing message within half an hour of
yeah.
Theresa May going on stage and not being able to talk and having a cough on stage, and they were so quick and so sharp, and I
Genius.
think it's cited as one of the most reacted kind of piece of marketing content. I think it got some, I don't know the numbers, but something like 1 million views or something. It was crazy.
Yeah,
But right time, so
yeah.
quick, and often we're just
Agile.
so slow, aren't we, to get the right marketing. We have that problem ourselves, getting things approved, getting it
Yeah,
through the systems and getting it out the door. So I think, have you got any other examples of really good
yeah, yeah.
reactive marketing?
I think it's a great shout though. I think agility is such an issue because, well, like we've both worked for brands where you've got such good ideas, you just want to get them out the door, and it just gets swamped down by sign-off approvals, all that.
Yeah,
Somebody else wanting to change the color because they don't like it personally, and it's like, well, it's not for you. Like we need to move on and get this
yeah,
out the door, and then it just falls. So agility is so important. I think there's been some absolutely fantastic examples recently. The first one to shout out is Samsung's call out on Apple. So obviously the big Apple campaign came
oh
out a
yeah,
couple of
yeah,
weeks
yeah,
ago where they
yeah.
basically crush the soul of life, with all the art and everything being crushed in that big thing and ended up in an iPad, which has offended quite a few people, but Samsung reversed it. And I mean, how quick that was. So they've
Yeah.
released their ad basically reversing that process, uncrushing all the creativity and having like this Samsung tablet as a musical book basically for them to play the guitar to. Excellent. I mean, the speed on that, insane. And then I think the other good example recently is EasyJet. So British Airways obviously went big with their brand messaging. I think there wasn't much on it. It was brand. It was like the view of the window on the plane, and they went big in out of home. And then EasyJet just pulled up next to them, half same view, half price or something. Um, same view, half
Yeah,
the
yeah,
price. Just genius. Like being able to react like that is I'm jealous because there's been
yeah,
so many campaigns, like especially ones that we've tried to do, in previous lifetimes and just didn't happen because people
yeah.
were too slow. So yeah, I think there's some great examples.
I think it takes a lot of bravery for a brand to be able to do that because you have to feel really confident at your positioning and be really sure of your values and your story and all of that good stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah, I agree with you. There's hundreds of good
yeah,
examples we
yeah.
could talk about, but
You've just got to be really brave. You've got to trust your team, and get it out there, and it wins when it does. Bit of a different one for us this week. So our Friday
mm,
ad is not. It's not a big advert. Many people won't have seen it. We came across it on LinkedIn, and then actually we've done some digging into it, and it's been created by some SMU students. Recently won some awards at the Dallas Addy Awards, and it's for a company called Truth Initiative. So they're basically trying to stop teenagers from smoking and vaping in the US. Since 2000 to today, the amount of teenagers smoking has dropped from 23 to 3%, and they've been a contributor to that. So that's a bit of background. But Fee, you've written this week's Friday ad, so why don't you share a little bit?
so this week's Friday ad, I feel super passionate about because, as I often say, I just feel we're surrounded by that world where vaping has become a sweetie shop for the teenagers. It looks amazing. The packaging's really eye-catching. The flavors are really inviting. And they feel quite accessible from my viewpoint as someone who doesn't want it to feel accessible and
Yeah,
things. So I think seeing this ad, it was so bold, it was so bright. It was done in a way that I thought was super clever with the flavors. So using the strawberry to replace the vital organs and, really trying to get across the damage that it's doing. So yeah, I had thought it was a kind of government anti-smoking type thing. So that's even more brilliant that it's students that have been working on this. I just hope it gets enough exposure, can get through to the right audience, because that it's not people like me it needs to influence. It needs to be influencing the teen and
yeah,
beyond audience that have think they're being healthier by giving up smoking, and we all know that there are huge health risks even with vaping. Vaping might be a better alternative to smoking. However, that does not mean it's a good thing to be doing. And I talk in the article this week about just here in Jersey, there's a vape shop opened up next to a milkshake shop. So you can already see the
yeah,
pool and the attraction that we're trying to get with these things. Yeah, and it scares me. I mean, obviously, disposable vapes are being banned in the UK, but now brands are creating ones that are reusable for that very reason, to be able to stay on the market.
yeah.
So yeah, something hugely close to my heart that I think we should be spreading the word as far as we possibly can.
I, yeah, I think it's really good that they have moved away from that usual, like, the dull image of a lung. Yeah, and they've pulled in this, like you say, the strawberry for a heart and watermelon lungs and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, well done to that team. I think for some students to put that together is a great bit of work. So well done.
Yeah, next week we're going to be talking pride, rainbow washing, because we're about to get into the season of this being splashed everywhere,
Yep.
and links nicely on from our Christmas stuff, because we've always actively said we try and talk about it all year round
Oh yeah,
rather than
yeah,
just in the month of June. So next week we're specifically going to talk about having a look at some of the rainbow washing that's happening.
yeah.
Um,
Fab. All right. So until next time.